So what's your knowledge on the history of the voting age in the UK? So has it always been 18?
Right, good. So, no, the voting age has shifted along with who can vote. We start off with the introduction of the working class in the end of the 19th century. We've subsequently then shifted from being all men over the age of 21 to all women over the age of 21 in 1918. All women over the age of 30 in 1918. Then that got shifted down to all women over the age of 21 in 1928, and then subsequently in 1969 it got shifted to all men and women over the age of 18. So moving down to 16 is part of that trend.
Okay, perfect, thank you. So do you know of any parties that have proposed this in the past?
This has been largely on Labour's plate for, I believe, politically speaking. Corbyn was the big proponent of broadening the voting age, expanding it out. I believe the Liberal Democrats have flirted with this notion as well, but generally speaking, it's gained traction mostly amongst the left, the political left, being both Labour and the Lib Dems.
Okay.
I think Greens are also heavily in favour of the 16 plus vote. They've always been, actually, so yeah, it's also been there, very much there. It's very much the political left, though.
Okay, yeah. So why do you think Labour want to lower the voting age?
Because Labour realistically understand that the biggest dividing line in voting at the moment isn't between classes. So traditionally it would have been, what Labour's sort of basis of support would have been the working class and then geographically. But as Labour has shifted more generally towards socially liberal and socially left policies, they've alienated their working class base of support. And actually, the young people are far more likely now to vote Labour than people of different classes. So increasingly, the big divide in the country between left and right is in terms of age. And then there's been another disrupting force which has come in, which is reform, that is picking up the younger vote, the younger male vote for right-wing youth voters. So this is a win-win for Labour. If it broadens out to 16 plus, then they will pick up more young voters, where Conservatives will increasingly gain the older voters who are... But then there will be a higher number of young voters for Labour. And in theory, the Conservatives will also lose young voters to Reform. So in theory, it's going to go to Labour and Reform, and the Conservatives will lose out.
All right, I think that's really interesting. So do you think there is enough support for this to be passed in Parliament?
Well, it's happened. Yeah. So we've got it. So, this is the reality. In the next election, we're going to have 16-year-olds are going to be able to vote. Whether they do vote, we'll see.
Yeah. So as someone who's knowledgeable on politics and teaches, do you know of any educational strategy for under 16-year-olds that is going to be put in place when this happens?
No, because this hasn't really reached that point. That's going to have to be worked out by the Department of Education closer to the actual sort of the next election. The big question is, should political education be happening in schools, or should it be happening at home? Now, there are coherent arguments for both. But definitely one of the big problems about political education in schools is the issue of neutrality and lack of bias. Now, teachers are supposed to be neutral, but that's very hard to ensure. It's very hard to police, and parents may not want young people being influenced politically by their teachers. So the question will be, will it be handled in schools? Will it be left to home? But then that has its own problems, because then that might be 16-year-olds voting based upon their parents' preferences, or potentially just social media. Or a proposal that I think would probably work best would be a government force essentially coming into schools to conduct non-partisan education about voting, and they would probably have to group the schools together, group the year groups to which this will apply, and then run a series of these things. That would be the best way to ensure neutrality, but there's nothing agreed on at this stage.
Yeah. Okay. I know that some of Labour's reasoning, specifically Angela Rayner's, has been that she had a baby at 16 and you can move out and work. So do you think that all of these things are already asking too much of 16-year-olds? And maybe instead of lowering the voting age to be at this kind of bar we've set for 16-year-olds, we could be raising everything else to 18?
I think lots of the things that Rayner sort of talks about with this, and lots of the arguments that people make, you can do this at 16, so why can't you vote? A lot of that stuff happens because ultimately we can't really control it.